the facts seem to be pretty clear that a whole bunch of innocent people are dying in Ukraine. It seems pretty clear that thousands of people have already been killed, are innocent people being exploded to death, gunned down, all types of horrific things. It's really awful. Whatever happened in this specific instance, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on it beyond that?
I think I have my reservations on any judgments of what's going on over there, particularly images or otherwise, until they're going to be confirmed at a later point in time. I mean, I don't want to defend Russia in any capacity, and it's tragic, and this should be an example for everyone of why we shouldn't push countries into war. I think to me, there's just zero evidence of the fact that Putin wouldn't engage in this activity if it wasn't for all the NATO escalations. And so, and now it gets scary over here because you get Zelensky over on the Grammys, and it seems like they're trying to really pull on everyone's hearts and walk us into this war, which I really only think favors the elites that would gladly walk us into more of these opportunities and don't care about human life. So I don't want to fall for their game. But at the same note, it's tragic, but also I don't think that you can make any reservation. You can't make judgments on these images when 24 hours later they keep retracting them. And I'm willing to bet in a year from now we'll hear more about what happened on the Ukraine side. So it's hard to know what's really going on.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And, it's hard in these situations. It's like you kind of, like you said, in the fog of war, and this is with all wars, and this is not necessarily nefarious. This is just kind of the nature of the things. You get bad reports all the time, about how many people died in this attack or that attack, because, if you think about it, it's difficult to get this information in real time. But you can pick out bullshit when you see it. And it is, I guess, two things that stand out to me. One that you kind of covered there, or that you mentioned there. One is that not what you didn't mention, but that we were texting back and forth before. But the idea that when Joe Biden, calls Vladimir Putin a war criminal for this is just, it's fucking rich, man. It just takes some goddamn nerve for Joe Biden to sit there and call this guy a war criminal because innocent civilians have been killed. I mean, Joe Biden himself, as commander in chief, has killed many innocent civilians. And the administration that he was vice president to started wars in Libya, in Syria, in Yemen, and continued wars in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Somalia. I mean, I will give him credit for ultimately ending the war in Afghanistan, although I think he really didn't have much of a choice, but I give him credit for ending that. But even there, he went in and had that drone strike where they killed a whole bunch of innocent people on the way out. And then they lied about it, right? And said that they just got an ISIS-K leader or something like that. And then that was all completely debunked. So, the idea of, pointing fingers at someone else. I mean, yes, I'm not saying it disproves the argument. Vladimir Putin is probably a war criminal for the way he's conducting this war. But for anybody, for any high-ranking official, let alone the commander-in-chief, Joe Biden, of the United States military, to point the finger at anybody else and say, oh my God, they're committing war crimes, or, whatever the way they put it. They always say they're violating, the international law and the global hegemony based on a rules-based order and all this shit. But basically, the unwritten rule of the whole, New World Order, liberal, global consensus is that America can do whatever the fuck they want. So if your rule is I can do whatever the fuck I want, there's not that much weight when you accuse others of breaking the rules. That's your own rule.
In my best estimation, all of Ukraine at this point, it's a hostage situation, and they are Putin's hostages. Now, he hasn't taken over the whole country yet, but I think they're going to go territory by territory. They're going to shell, they're going to kill civilians. And we can either call him a war criminal and escalate this, which might lead to a full war or a nuclear war, or we can accept, hey, we're going to need some guarantees here for peace moving forward, and we're going to need the international community to all be on board for consequences if we kind of give in these eastern territories and walk back this war. Which even what's his name, Blinken said that we would de-escalate our sanctions if that's what Ukraine can negotiate that U.S. will get rid of its sanctions. The sanctions are a big game anyways because all the countries are still buying oil from Russia. So the point just being, this is a bad situation. I think it's only made worse by escalating. And so I think it's time for people to kind of accept Putin's won, let him keep the eastern territories, de-escalate, put some consequences in place if he decides to ramp up again. Let's move on.
I think as I've been saying from the very beginning of this, I think it's to anybody who's, to any cool head in this situation, it's been obvious from the beginning that that negotiation should be what everybody's focused on, a massive effort toward diplomacy.
It's wild to think that we don't even know what the economic cost of this thing would be. So, the deaths are obviously tragic, but how many people just haven't worked in Ukraine in a month, or how many people have lost their homes? And I don't really quite understand the international supply lines on food, but I keep hearing these stories about fertilizer and how many plants aren't even being, amidst the inflation, how many farms are just going unseeded. It's I don't know. It just seems like how come there isn't even more reporting about the potential costs? It's just Biden saying in passing, hey, your food costs are going to go up. Well, aren't there experts that can tell us exactly how many fields aren't being planted? How much of a food shortage? Why is this a gray area?
Well, it seems very conveniently it seems to be that it's being used, very conveniently to kind of sweep under the rug all problems, they can all be blamed on Vladimir Putin and this war, which is so I think there's a pretty strong vested interest in not breaking down the exact cost of this war and rather just letting it just be this thing that if there are any problems at all, it's because Vladimir Putin's such a monster. He invaded Ukraine, and that's why your whole country's falling apart. It's all because of Vladimir Putin.